Chapter 8 Going Global. Global adjective. Throughout the world refer to spending one market behind the immediate area of production. On Saturday morning, Jessie slept in, and even when she opened her eyes at 9:05, she still felt tired. How can I wake up tired? She wondered as she buried her face in her pillow and dozed off. 5 minutes later, she was awake for real, remembering why she was so tired. Yesterday, lemonade stand had been the hardest work of her life. Face painting, hair braiding, and nail polish. It had sounded like such a good idea. Jessie had been sure that every kid in the neighborhood would line up to buy a cup of lemonade. But that was a problem. Every kid had lined up for lemonade and then wanted face painting and hair braiding and fingernail polishing and toenail polishing. One boy had asked for face painting on both cheeks, both arms, and his stomach. One girl's back for lots of little braids with ribbons woven in, and the nail polishing. They all wanted different colors and details, and it was impossible to get them to sit still long enough for the polish to dry. "We're going to run out of lemonade," Megan had said to Jessie at noon as the line stretched all the way to the street. "Pour half lemonade instead of full. Pour half pot instead of full one," whispered Jessie. "It has to be last." Jessie and Megan had each made $24 in lemonade, but they worked eight hours to do it. At the end of the day, they agreed. A good idea, but not worth it. After breakfast, Jessie pulled out her lockbox and sat on her bed. She kept the box hidden in her closet on the shelf under some sweater. She kept the keys in the plastic box in her desk drawers. The plastic box had disguised to look exactly like a pack of gum. You would never know it was hollow and had a secret sliding panel on the side. Jessie unlocked the box and opened the lid. First, she took out the three-torn slip of paper. There was one for value added and one for goodwill. There was also a new one that Jessie had added last night. Profit margin. Sales less all rating cost divided by the number of sales. The result is a ratio. For example, if it costs you $300 to make 100 hats and you sell these hats for $500, the profit margin is 500 minus 300 divided by 100 equals 2/1. Jessie lined up all three scraps of paper on the bed beside her. She wasn't sure why she was saving this word, but she felt like they belonged in her lockbox. Next, she took out her lemonade earnings. Every day, Megan had squirreled over how much money they made. But every day, Jessie had known it's not enough. It's not going to be enough to win. Jessie counted the money. So far, she had earned $40. It was a lot of money, but it wasn't nearly enough. She still needed to earn $60 more. And today was Saturday, only 2 more selling days before she and Evan counted their earnings on Sunday night. How was she going to sell enough lemonade to earn $60 in 2 days? She couldn't. That was a problem. No kids could earn $100 in just 5 days by selling lemonade. The profit margin was too small. She knew because she used her calculators to figure it out last night. The number said it all. There was no way 2 girls in one neighborhood could sell 375 cups of lemonade. Nobody wanted that much lemonade, no matter how hot the day was. Jessie looked at the money in her lockbox and the page of calculation on her desk. Any other kids would have quit, but Jessie wasn't a quitter. On good days, Jessie's mom called her persistent. On bad days, she told her she just didn't know when enough was enough. Jessie reached for 10 bright ideas to lit up your sails. It was on her bedside table, right next to Charlotte Wrapp's. With Jessie's hand hovered, she looked longingly at Wilbur and Ferns, watching Charlotte hanging by the thread. But this was a swirl, and she couldn't stop to read for fun. She grabbed the booklet and opened it to bright idea number 6. An hour later, she had a new scrap of paper stashed in her lockbox and a whole new page of circulation on her desk. It might work. It could work. But she and Megan would have to risk everything. Everything they earned over the past 3 days. And Jessie would have to be braver than she had ever been in her whole life. Jessie carried her lockbox and calculation downstairs. She went into the kitchen and pulled down the school directory, scanning the names of all the third grade girls from last year. She knew them all, from Evan, from recess, from the lunchroom. Knew who they are, knew their face, which one were nice, which one was not nice. But she didn't really know any of them, not enough to call them up, not enough to say, "Want to do something today?" Not enough to ask, "Would you like to have a lemonade stand with me?" These girls were going to be her classmate. Jessie felt her face grew hot and her upper lip started to sweat. What was it going to feel like to walk into that classroom on the first day of school with all these eyes looking at her? Would they stare? Would they tease? Would they ignore her, even if she said "I"? Jessie looked at the name and then slammed the directory shut. She couldn't do it. She just wasn't brave enough. Evan walked into the kitchen and grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. A cloud of fruit flies rose up in the air and settled again. Evan inspected the apple and then bit into it without washing it first. Jessie wanted to say something, but held her tongue. She looked at him and thought, it is never going to feel normal. Not talking to Evan. "Hey," she said. Evan raised his apple to her, his mouth too stopped to talk. "So is Paul coming over today?" she asked. Evan shook his head, watching noisily. "Well, is anyone coming over?" Jessie was curious to see what the enemy was up to today. Yesterday, Evan's mouth had told her plenty. He had sold a lot of lemonade, a lot. But what was he going to do today? Evan shrugged his shoulders. He swallowed so hard it looked like he was choking down an ocean liner. "But you are sending up lemonade, right?" asked Jessie. "Nah, I'm good," said Evan. Looked closely at his apple. "I'm just gonna take it easy today." He took another enormous bite and walked out of the kitchen and down the basement stairs. Take it easy? How could you take it easy? You didn't take it easy when you're in the middle of the war. Unless he had already won the war. Could that be possible? It was impossible. There was no way Evan had earned $100 in just 3 days of selling lemonade. No way. Jessie's mind skittered like one of these long-legged birds on the beach. Has he? Could he? Were her calculation wrong? Was there some other way? Has she overlooked some details? Some tricks? Was she missing something? Jessie flipped open the school directory. Maybe he had $100. Maybe he didn't. She couldn't take a chance. She started putting pencil check marks next to the name of girls she thought might work out. She'd gone over the list twice when the doorbell rang. It was Megan. "I've got a new idea," said Jessie. Not more lemonade," said Megan, sinking onto the couch in the family room. I'm tired of selling lemonade, and it's just too hot. I practically had sunstroke yesterday painting this old face. Well, done with that, said Jessie. No more extra servants. It doesn't pay off, but here's an idea. Forget lemonade. Let's go to the 7-Eleven, said Megan. Is Evan home? We could all go. No, he's not home, said Jessie, eyeing the door to the basement. She needed Megan to be on the board with her plan. She needed Megan to make a phone call. Look, this is great, and we don't need to sell the lemonade. Jessie laid out all the details. She showed Megan a new scrap of paper. Franchise. The right to sell a company product and use the company name and logo in certain area. Then she showed Megan her page of calculations. At first, Megan buried her head under the pillow, but then she poked her head out like a turtle and started to listen for real. That sounded like a pretty good plan, she said. But is it really going to work? Jessie looked at her calculations. She'd done them twice. It should, she said. I really think it should. She frowned, suddenly not so sure of herself. It's a big upfront investment and a lot of work organizing everybody. But once they're set up, we could just be able to sit back and watch the money roll in. The key is spreading everybody out so there'll be plenty of customers. We'll need at least 10 girls. 15 would be better. That's the whole 4th grade class, said Megan, looking doubtful. How are we gonna get them to do this? Well, you should phone them all up, said Jessie. She handed Megan the school directory, opened to the 3rd grade page. Me? Said Megan. Why me? Because they know you, said Jessie. They know you too. Yeah, but they like you. Megan shook her head. Not all these girls are my friends. Even the ones that aren't your friends, they still like you. Everybody likes you, Megan. Megan looked embarrassed. Oh, everybody like you too, said Jessie. No, they don't, said Jessie. They really don't. There was an uncomfortable silence between the two girls. Then Jessie shrugged her shoulders and said, I don't know why these girls are in my class year doesn't like me. I'm hoping this year's will be better. Megan tapped a finger on her knee. You're nervous, huh? About 4th grade? She asked. Jessie thought hard. I'm worried that I don't make any new friends, she said. You know, that all and that. She took a deep breath. I don't belong. Megan looked up at the ceiling for a moment. Do you have an index card? She asked. Huh? I need an index card, said Megan. Do you have one? Jessie went to the kitchen desk and got an index card. She handed it to Megan. Megan started to write something on the card. What are you doing? Asked Jessie. I'm writing the comment card, said Megan. That's something you're going to miss from 3rd grade. We did it every Friday. We each got assigned a person, and you had to write something positive about that person on the index card. Then it got read out loud. She folded up the card and handed it to Jessie. Jessie unfolded the card and read what Megan had written. You're a really nice person and you have good ideas all the time. You're fun to be with me and I'm glad you're my friend. Jessie stared at the index card. She kept reading the words over and over. Thanks, she whispered. You can keep it, said Megan. That's what I did. I've got all my comment cards in my basket on my desk. And whenever I feel sad or or kind of down on myself, I read through them. That really helped me feel better. Jessie folded the index card and put it in her lockbox. She was going to save it forever. It was like having a magic charm. So how about I make half the phone calls and you make the other half? Said Jessie. Okay, said Megan, jumping off from the couch. It was surprising how many almost first grade girls had absolutely nothing to do 3 days before school started. In less than an hour, Jessie and Megan had 13 lemonade franchises signed up for the day. The rest of the day was work, but it was fun. Jessie and Megan attached the old baby carriers to Megan's bike, then rode to the grocery stores and spent every penny of their earning on lemonade mix, 52 cans. They actually bought out the store. The 4 bag of can filling the carrier like a boxy baby. They also brought 50 packages of paper cups. When they got back to Megan's house, Jessie tucked the receipt in her lockbox, right next to her comment card. Jessie liked receipt. They were precious and complete. Precious and complete. A receipt always told the whole story, right down to the very last penny. Then they tossed construction papers and art supplies into a carrier and started making the run. First stop, Sally Knight's house. She was ready for them with a table, chair, and empty pitcher all set up. Jessie mixed the lemonade. Megan quickly made a lemonade for sale. 75 cents a cup sign. Then they left Sally to her business. The deal was that Sally got to keep 1/3 of the profit, and Jessie and Megan got to keep the rest. As they set up all 13 lemonade stands, each with enough mix make 4 pitchers of lemonade. Jessie and Megan hung out at Megan's house, baking brownies and watching TV. Then they hopped on their bikes again and made rounds. Jessie and Megan stopped in front of Sally's house first. The lemonade stand was nowhere to be seen. "What do you think is going on?" asked Megan. Jessie had a bad feeling in her stomach. Something must have gone wrong. They rang the doorbell. Sally came to the door. "Hurry," she said, grabbing her arms and pulling them aside. "My mom goes totally mental when the AC is coming on and the door is open." "Where's your stand?" asked Jessie nervously, feeling goosebumps ripple up her arms because of the suddenly cool air. Sally waved her hands. "Done," she said. "I stole out in like half an hour. It's too darn hot." "We made $24 beside tips. Do I get to keep the tips?" "Sure," said Jessie. She'd forgotten about these on her calculation page. Sally handed Jessie $8 for Jessie and Megan each. "You wanna stay and have some ice cream?" Sally asked. "Okay," said Megan, "and we brought you a thank you brownie. For being part of your team." That had been bright idea number 9. After a bowl of mousse is loose ice cream, Jessie and Megan headed out. The story was same at every girl's house. The lemonade had stalled out quickly and money just kept rolling in. "I can't believe we made. How much did we make?" wailed Megan once they got back to her house. $104 each. Each! Shouted Jessie. She couldn't stop hopping from one foot to the other. I've never seen so much money in my life. Jessie was already running numbers in her head, subtracting the $80 that she and Megan had spent on lemonade and cups. Each girl had made a profit of $64. If they increased the number of franchises from 13 to 26, and 26, they could each make $128 in one day. If they ran a 26 franchise every day for 1 week, they could each make $896. Jessie pulled out a piece of paper and scribbled the graph. The sky was the limit. Megan pretended to faint when Jessie showed her the graph. What are you going to do with your money? She asked from the floor. Win the war, thought Jessie. Oops, she couldn't say that to Megan. Megan didn't know about the lemonade war. After all, Megan liked Evan. Jessie suddenly wondered if Megan knew about the war. Whose side would she be on? All at once, Jessie felt as if Evan were a hawk, circling above, waiting to swoop down and snatch Megan away. Oh, she was so mad at him. He deserved to lose everything. Is $104 enough to win? Wondered Jessie. Suddenly, surely, Evan couldn't have earned more than that. Better safe than sorry. She would work all day tomorrow, Sunday, selling lemonade. So, said Megan, what are you gonna do with the money? She was kicking off her sneakers and fanning herself with a magazine. Jessie said, I'm going to donate all my money to the Animal Rescue League. Megan stopped waving the magazine. Oh, that is so nice of you. I want to donate my money too. She dropped the magazine and started shoving her money toward Jessie. Here, give mine to the Animal Rescue League too. On the card, just put both our names. The money came at her so fast Jessie couldn't know what to say. There it was. $208. $208. All in her hands. She had won. She had really and truthfully won the lemonade war. Just promise me one thing, said Megan. No lemonade stand tomorrow, okay? Okay, said Jessie. She didn't need a lemonade stand on Sunday if she had $208 today. My dad said tomorrow is last day before the heat breaks, said Megan. So we're going to the beach for a whole day. Wanna come? Sure, said Jessie. Maybe Evan want to come too, said Megan. Jessie shook her head. No, Evan's busy all day tomorrow. He told me he got planned. Megan shrugged. Too bad for him. Yup, said Jessie, thinking of all that money. Too bad for him. Chapter 9. Negotiation. Negotiation. Noun. A method of bargaining so that you can reach an agreement. Evan looked up from the marble track he was building when Jessie walked in the front door. She looked hot. She looked sweaty. She looked happy, really happy, like she just gotten an A+, or like she just won the war. What are you smiling for? Said Evan, holding a marble at the top of the track. No reason, said Jessie, put her hands on her hips and stared at Evan. She looked like one of these goofy yellow smiley faces all month. Well, why looking at me, would ya? It's a terrifying. You look like you're going to explode or something. Evan dropped her marble into the funnel. It raced through the track, picking up speeds around the curve. It passed the flywheel, sending the flags spinning, then fell into the final drop. When it reached the end of the track, it went sailing through the air like a beautiful silver bird and fell short. The marble landed on the ground instead of in the bullseye cup. Evan murmured under his breath an object of position of the cup. Raise the end of the track, said Jessie. You'll get more love. Evan looked at her angrily. A marble had fallen into the cup the last 10 times he'd done it. Why did it have to fall short the one time she was watching? Don't tell me what to do, he said. Why was she smiling like that? I didn't tell you what to do, she said. I just made a suggestion. Take it or leave it. She turned to walk up the stairs. Grump Mr. Fink. She tossed over her shoulder. Evan threw the marble at her disappearing back but missed by a mile. Well, he hadn't really been aiming anyway. He just wanted that feeling of throwing something. He'd been feeling the need to throw something these past 4 days. Grump Mr. Fink. That was the name of the character he made up when he was 6 and Jessie was 5. That was back when Mom and Dad were fighting a lot and Evan and Jessie just had to get out of the house. They stumbled up the climbing tree. Evan had his branch, Jessie had hers, and waited out. Sometimes they had to wait a long time. And once, when Jessie was thirsty and impatient and cranky, Evan had said, Be quiet and I'll tell you a story about Grump Mr. Fink. Grump Mr. Fink was a man who was cranky and mean and made everybody miserable. But deep down, he wanted people to love him. It's just that every time he tried to do something nice, it turned out all wrong. Evan had made up a lot of stories about Mr. Fink in that tree. But after Dad left, there just weren't any more stories to tell. No one in the whole world, besides Jessie and Evan, knew about Grump Mr. Fink, and Evan hadn't thought about him in years. Hey, he said sharply. He heard Jessie stop at the top of the stairs, but she didn't come down. Do you want to call this whole thing off? He asked. What? He shouted. This lemonade war, he said. Call it off? Yeah, he said. Just say nobody wins and nobody loses. Jessie walked down the stairs and stood with her arms crossed. Evan looked at her. He missed her. He had spent a whole day, the third to last day before school started, by himself. It stunk. It totally stunk. If Jessie had been around and they hadn't been fighting with each other, they could have played air hockey or made pistol or built a marble track with twice as many gizmos that launched the marbles into the bullseye cup every time. Jessie was very precious. She was good at getting the marble to go into the cup. What'd you say? He asked. Jessie looked puzzled. I don't know, she said, frowning. You see, Megan's kinda... Evan felt his face go hot. Megan Moriarty. Every time he thought of her, his throat got all squeezed and scratchy. It was like a allergic reaction he had if he accidentally ate a shrimp. He told Megan Moriarty about everything? He asked, feeling itch all over. No, well, what everything? Asked Jessie. Evan thought she looked like a fish caught in a net. He did. And suddenly, Evan knew exactly why Jessie had been smiling when she walked in the door. And why she didn't want to call off the war. She had done it. again. She had figured out some way to show the world just how stupid he was. Like the time he came home with 100% on his wiki spelling quiz, the only time he ever gotten every word right. To find that Jesse had won a statewide poetry writing contest. He'd thrown his paper into the trash without even telling his mom. What was the point? Evan didn't know how, but somehow Jessie found a way to earn more than $103. She was going to beat him, and Megan Moriarty knew all about it, and she would tell everyone else. All the girls would know. Paul would know, and Ryan, and Adam and Jack. Scott Spencer would know. Can you believe it? He lost to his little sister, the one who's going to be in her class. What a loser. You know what? He said, pushing past her. Forget it. Just forget I said anything. The war is on. O.N. Prepare to die. Chapter 10. Malicious Mischief. Malicious Mischief. Noun. Act of purposely destroying the property of someone else's business. Jessie was all in naught. Evan was madder than ever at her, and she couldn't figure out why. He had said, "Do you want to call off the war?" And she had said, "Sure, let's call off the war," or something like that. That's what she meant to say. That's what she wanted to say. But what she really said? She mentioned Megan. Oh, she almost spilled the beans about Megan giving her a $104, but she hadn't. She kept her mouth shut just in time. Jessie smiled, remembering that. So why had Evan act like that? What was the matter with him? Jessie lay down on her bed. The world was a confusing place, and she needed Evan to help her figure it out. If this was what fourth grade was going to be, she might as well just give up now. And there was something else that was tying her up in knots. That $208, it was really, really hers. Megan had given it to her to make a donation. She hadn't given it to Jessie the way Evan's friends had given their money to him. That still made her so mad when she thought about it. Oh, she wanted to get even with him for saying she didn't have friends. So even though it looked like she had a $208 in her lockbox, only half of that was money she could honestly call her own. Still, if push came to shove, and she needed it all to win. Sure, she used it all. This was war. But if she pretended that all money was hers, hey, what if Evan had more, even more than that? So if she lost, even with Megan's money, whoop. Jessie hadn't thought of that. If she lost, even with $208, if she lost, oh my gosh, winner takes all. She would lose all of Megan's money to Evan. How could Jessie explain that to her friends? You see, I took all the money and you earned to help rescue animals, and I lost it to my brother, who's going to buy an iPod. Megan would hate her. All the girls who were friends with Megan would hate her, and Evan already hated her. So that was that. Goodbye, fourth grade. She couldn't use Megan's money to try to win the bet. It was too risky, but did she had enough to win on her own? Jessie felt desperation rise in her throat. How much money did Evan have? She had to find out. Jessie tiptoed upstairs to the attic office. She listened at the closed door. Her mother was on the phone. Then Jessie skunked downstairs. Evan was watching TV in the family room. Like a whisper, she crept back upstairs into Evan's room. There was a scrawled rule in the Tarasky house. No one was allowed in anyone else's room without an express invitation. It was the term. It meant that Jessie had to say, "Evan, can I come into your room?" And Evan had to say yes before she put even one toe in on over the line. So even though Evan's door was wide open, just crossing the threshold was a direct violation that carried a fine $1. But what was the least of Jessie's concern? But that was the least of Jessie's concerns. She stunk over to Evan's bookshelf and picked up the curved Sears box. Evan chosen Stevender's the family summer vacation. The orange-red wood of the box had the same edge into the top. A sailboat sailing past the lighthouse while gulls flew overhead. The word Bar Harbor, Maine was painted in the sky. The box had brass hangs and a clerk's latch. What he didn't have was a lock. Jessie flipped open the lid, immediately smelling the spicy, sharp scent of the wood. She couldn't believe her eyes. Her hands started piling through the bills, dozens of them. There was a 10 and a bunch of 5s and more one than she could count. She sat on Evan's bed and quickly sorted out the money. Evan had $103.11. 89 cents less than she had. 89 cents. He could sell 1 lousy cup of lemonade tomorrow to beat her, and there was nothing she could do about it because she'd be at the beach. I can't let him win, she thought. I can't. She had gotten to the point where she couldn't even remember what had started the whole war. She couldn't remember why it had been so important to win in the first place. Now she just had to win. She messed up the money and stuffed it back into the box. That night in bed, she lay awake, trying to think of some way to stop Evan from smelling even the single glass. Sometimes in the dark thoughts come. Jessie had a very dark thought. The next morning was Sunday, and the rule in the Tresky room was that everyone could sleep in as late as he or she wanted. But Jessie woke to the sound of the electric garage door opening. She sat up in bed and checked the clock. 8 a.m. Then she looked out her window, just in time to see Evans pedaling away on his bike, his backpack on his back. She quickly dressed and hurried down into the kitchen. Her mom was making scrambled eggs and toast. "Hi, Jess, want some?" she asked, pointing with her spatula at the pans of sizzling eggs. "No, thanks," said Jessie. "I washed your blue bathing suits last night. It's hanging in the basement. What times are the Moriartys picking you up?" 9 o'clock, said Jessie. "Mom, where did Evan go?" "He went to the store to buy some lemonade mix." Jessie's mom scooped the eggs onto a plate and put the pan in the sink. When she turned on the faucet, the pan hissed like an angry snake. Growled clouds of screams puffed into the air and then disappeared. "What's going on, Jess? What's with all the lemonade scent and you and Evan fighting?" Jessie opened the pantry cupboard and pulled out a box of cakes. "Nothing," she said. She watched cereals very carefully as she poured. She didn't want to look at her mother right then. Mrs. Tresky got the milk out of the refrigerator and put it on the counter next to Jessie's bowl. "It doesn't seem like nothing. It seems like there's a lot of bad feeling between the two of you." Jessie poured her milk slowly. "Evan's mad at me, and he was going to be a whole lot madder after today," she added in her head. "What's he mad about?" asked Mrs. Tresky. "I don't know. He called me a baby, and I said and said I ruined everything, and Jessie felt it coming. She tried to hold it back, but she knew it was coming. Her shoulders tightened up, her chest caved in, and her mouth opened in the wow. How he said he hated me. Tears pulled out of her eyes and dropped into her cereal bowl. Her nose started to run and her lips quivered. With every sob, she let out the sounds of tires squealing on a wet road. For a whole time Jessie cried, her mother wrapped in the hug. And then, like a fan to turn off, Jessie stopped. She had to tell the truth. She really didn't understand why Evan was so angry. Even before the lemonade war, he had been mad, and Jessie still didn't know why. Better asked Mrs. Tresky. Not much, said Jessie. She wiped her nose with her paper napkin and started eating her cereal. It was soggy, but thankfully not salty. Don't you think it would be a good idea to find out what he's mad about? Asked Jessie's mom. You're never going to stop being mad at each other until you both understand what the other person is feeling. I guess so, said Jessie. It can be hard. Sometimes it's even hard to know what you're feeling yourself. I mean, how do you feeling about him? Asked Mrs. Tresky. Jessie didn't have to think long. All the insult and anger and the confusion and fighting seemed to converge in the single flash of white-hot feeling. I hate him. I hate him for saying all these mean things and for not letting me play. I hate him just as much as he hates me more. Mrs. Tresky looked sad. Can we have a sit down about this tonight? After you get back from the beach? No, said Jessie, remembering the spit vow. Evan wouldn't be mad if he knew that she had worried Mums with their fighting. And then he'd spill the beans about the terrible things she was about to do. Jessie didn't want her mom to knowing anything about that. We'll work it out ourselves, Mom. I promise. Evan and I will talk tonight. I'm sorry I've been working so hard, said Mrs. Tresky. I know it's lazy end to the summer. It's okay, Mom. You gotta work, right? No, yes, no, I don't know. I promise I'll be finished by dinner time tonight. That's what we can all go to the firework together. Jessie's mom looked out the window. I hope they don't get cancelled because of weather. They say scattering thunderstorm this evening. Jessie and her mom finished breakfast up without saying much else. I'll clean up, said Jessie. She liked to do dishes and she wanted to do something nice for her mom. While she cleaned, she thought about the terrible plan she had come up with last night. It was mean. It was really mean. It was the meanest thing she had ever imagined doing. I'm not going to do it, she decided. I hate him, but I don't hate him that much. She was putting the last glass in the dishwasher when Evan walked in. His backpack was burgly. I thought you were going to the beach for the whole day, he said. Megan's picking me up in half an hour. She thought she saw Evan sniffing up. Good. What's in the backpack? Not much, he said, dumping out the content onto the kitchen table. Can of lemonade mix rolled all over. Jessie tried to count, but there was too many. 15? 20? Holy macaroni! How many can did you buy? 32. Evan started to stack a can in the pyramid. But you don't need that much. Even to win. You don't need that much. That's she did a calculation in her head. That's 256 cups of lemonade. If you sell them at 50 cents a piece, $1. I'm going to charge $1 a piece. Jessie felt like her head was going to explode. You never sell it all. she said. There isn't a neighborhood in town that will buy 256 cups in one day. Too much lemonade. Not enough thirsty people, she thought. I'm going to roll like an ice cream truck. I'm going to mix it all up in a big cooler of wagon it from street to street. The height today is going to be 94 degrees. It might take me all day, but I'll sell every last cup. 256 smackers. And then tonight, Juicy, we count our earnings. Don't forget, winner takes all. But you don't need $256 to win, she shouted. Evan stood tall and said that gravy voice that all the boys imitated. I don't play to win. I play to pulverize. Oh, what an idiot. Jessie couldn't believe her brother could be such a jerk. She watched as Evan put together her rolling lemonade stand in the garage. The big cooler was something Mrs. Tresky had brought a few years back when she was in charge of refreshment for a school spring fling. It looked like a giant bongo from bongo drums with a scroll off tops and the spigots at the bottom. Evan loaded it into the wagon, then poured in a mix of all 32 cans. He used the garden hose to fill the cooler to the top, then dump in 4 trays of ice cubes. Then the plastic beach shovel he stirred the lemonade. The ice cube made a weird rattling noise as they swirled around in the big drum. Using the shovel like a big spoon, he scooped out a tiny bite and tasted. Perfect, he announced, throwing the top on tightly. Then he went into the basement to make his lemonade on wheel signs. Without a moment hesitated, Jessie sprang into action. First, she got out a large Ziploc bag from the kitchen drawer, the kind that you could freeze a whole gallon of strawberry if you wanted. Then she held it up upside down and wide open over the footballs. She gave the ball a stoic knock. Jessie was surprised how easy it was to catch the flies that floated up from the ball. It was like they wanted to die. She filled that bag and 2 more with flies, then hurried to the garage. She unscrewed the top of the big cooler. Holding the first bag upside down, she unzipped it, expecting the flies to fall down into the lemonade. They didn't. They stayed safe and dry in the bag. It was like they wanted to leave. Too bad for you stupid flies, said Jessie as she flung the bag from the lemonade. Under the surface, she turned the bag inside out, swishing it back and forth so that all the flies were washed up into the lemonade. She emptied all 3 bags of flies into the big cooler, then hunted around until she found the 2 green inchworms and a fuzzy, crispy moth caterpillar. She tossed them into the cooler. Then she threw in the fishbowl of dirt for good measure. She was just about to throw the top back on when she heard Evan coming up the basement stairs. There was time to get the top back on. He would see the bugs and the whole plan would be ruined. Jessie ran to the step and shouted, Evan, Mom wants to see you in her office right now. Oh man, muttered Evan as he started to climb the second set of stairs. Jessie quickly screwed on the cap, grabbed her a blue bathing suit from the basement, then went upstairs to her room. On the way, she passed Evan coming down. Mom did not want to see me, he said, annoyed. Jessie looked surprised. That's what it sounds like. She yelled something down the stairs. Thought it was get Evan, Jessie shrugged. So I got you. From her bedroom window, she watched Evan rolling down the street with his lemonade on wheel stands. He was like one of these old-time peddlers, calling out, Lemonade, get your icy cold lemonade here, as he walked. For one lightning brief second, Jessie felt the thrill of regret. She could see how hard he was training to pull the heavy collar. She knew what it was like to stand in a hot sun selling lemonade, but the feeling was stuffed out by the hurricane of anger she felt when she remembered Evan's growly voice. Pulverize. Jessie reached into her bathing suit, packed up her beach bag, and said quick goodbye to her mother as the Moriartys pulled into the driveway. What a great day for a beach, said her mother. Have fun and be home in time for the fireworks, okay? The fireworks. Yeah. Jessie imagined there would be some fireworks tonight. Chapter 11. A total loss. Total loss. Noun. Goods are so damaged that there is no point in repairing them, or they can't be repaired at all. The first cup was an easy sale. The second cup too. It was on third cup that a little girl, about 6 years old, said, "Ew, there's a bug in my drink." Then her brother said, "There's one in mine too." "Gross," said an older boy on the skateboard. There are like 3 in mine. I want my money back, man," he said, dumping his lemonade on the ground. The mother of the little girls and boys looked into their cups carefully. "I think you need to check your lemonade, honey," she said to Evan. Evan unscrewed the cap and everyone looked in. The surface was swimming with dead bugs, fruit flies, worms, and soggy brown caterpillars. "Oh my goodness," said the mother. The boy started spitting on the ground like he was going to die. The girl started wailing, "Mommy, I drank bugs. I have bugs in my tummy." Evan couldn't believe his eyes. How did this happen? Did they crawl in somehow? They couldn't have. He had screwed the lids on tightly. He was sure of it. And anyway, 1 or 2 bugs crawling in, maybe. But 50 dead fruit flies and a 2-inch worm and a caterpillar? It just wasn't possible. Evan was burning with embarrassment as everyone looked at him in his buggy lemonade. Frantically, he reached into the cooler and started to scoop out the dead bugs with his hand. Sweetheart," said the mother, "you can't sell the lemonade." "I'll get them all," said Evan. "I'll get every last one out." "No, dear, you really can't. You need to dump it out," she said. Evan looked at her like she was crazy. "Dump it out? Dump it out?" He spent $40 for his hard-earned money on that lemonade and another $1 for a cup. He wasn't going to dump it out. "I'll do it at home," he said. "No, you should do it here, I think. I need to be sure that all dispose of properly." Evan looked at her. He didn't know her, but she knew her type. Boy, did he know her type. She was the kind of mother who thought she was the mother of the whole world. If you're on the playground and she thought you were playing too rough, she'd tell you. If you're chewing the gum in line at the 7-Eleven, she'd say, "I sure hope that's sugarless." Mothers like that never minded just their own business or just their kids' business. They thought they had to care of every kid in the kingdom. "That's too heavy for me to dump," he said. "I'll take it home and my mom can help." "I'll help," said the busybody mother of the world. "All we need to do is tip a little." She grabbed one handle of the big collar. Evan has no choice but to grab the other handle. Together, they tipped the lemonade poured out of the top of the collar. They poured and poured and poured. The lemonade sparkled in the sunlight like a bejeweled waterfall, and then disappeared without a trace, soaking into the tambour grass. As the last slice of lemonade slipped out of the collar, a slake of mud poured out. "Oh my goodness," said the mother. Evan couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe how quickly his victory had turned to defeat. It was just like lemonade. It had disappeared into the grass, leaving nothing behind. A total loss. The mother smiled satisfactorily as Megan returned her $2. The skateboard dudes had already skated off with his refund. There was nothing to do but go home. Evan walked slowly, dragging the wagon with the empty cooler rattling inside. With every step he took, the wagon handle poked him into the raw land. Step, poke, step, poke. He felt like someone was urging him forward. "Evan, Mom wants to see you in her office right away." That had been weird. His mom had no idea what he meant. "I didn't call you. I didn't call anyone," she had said. "I've been on the computer." "Evan, Moms want to see you." He had been coming up the stairs. Jessie had been in the garage. She had looked anxious. "Right away," she had said. Evan stopped walking. He stared at the empty cooler. Then he started to run. The wagon bounced crazy along the uneven sidewalk. Twice it tipped over. What did it matter? Thought Evan angrily. There's no lemonade to spill. By the time he got home, he had it all figured out. He looked in a kitchen chest and found the 3 Ziploc bags inside out the sticky with lemonade. He shook the fruit bowl and noticed how few fruit flies took it to the air. If he had the right material, he would have dust a color for fingerprints, but there was really no need for that. He knew what he would have found. Jessie was all over this one. "That's rat! That lousy, rotten, stinking rat of the sister!" he shouted. He went back to the garage and kicked the wagon. He knocked the cooler to the floor. He tore up his lemonade on wheels sign into a dozen pieces. He was going to lose. She had $100. He was sure of it, and he held just 62 left. Tonight, before the fireworks, when they counted their money, she would be the winner, and he would be a loser. Winner takes all. Loser get nothing. It was so unfair. Evan stumped upstairs to his room. He slammed the door so hard it bounced open again. When he went to close it, he was staring across the hall, straight into Jessie's room. He could see her neatly made bed covered in plush pillows, the poster of Burr Harbor from their trip to Maine this summer, and her night table was with chocolate wrap at the ready. Evan crossed the hall, then paused at Jessie's door. There was a rule about not entering. Well, she'd broken the rule first. Even though there wasn't really a rule about fruit flies and lemonade, it was clearly a dirty trick. Evan walked in and went straight to Jessie's desk drawer. There was a fake palm of gum inside the key. They should really think he didn't know where she hid it. He'd seen her slip the key inside the box when he was passing by on his own to the bathroom. Jessie was smart, but she wasn't very smooth. He'd known for months where the key was hidden. He just hadn't bothered to use it until now. It took him a while to find the lockbox. He checked the bureau drawers first and then under Jessie's bed, but finally he found it hidden in her closet. Again, not very smooth. Evan carried the key and the lockbox back to his room and sat on the bed. He put the key in the locks and opened the top. Then, the moment of truth, he left out the plastic change tray. There was a whole bunch of scrap paper on top, and there was a folded index card too. Evan moved this aside and found a $10 bill, paper clipped the birthday card. Under that was an envelope labeled Pure World Earnings, with $4.42 inside it. That was the money Jessie had before the lemonade war began. She kept it separate, just like she promised. Next to it was the fat envelope labeled lemonade warnings. Evan opened the lemonade. Evan opened the envelope. Inside, the bills were arranged by 1, 5, and 10. All the bills were facing the same way, so that the eye of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Alexander Hamilton was all looking at Evan as he counted out the cash. $208. And there it was, the winning red. Evan thought of how hard he worked that week in the blazing sun, in the scorching heat. He thought about the colorful of lemonade pouring into the grass. He thought about handing over his $62.11 to Jessie, and how she smiled and laughed to tell everyone that she had won the lemonade war. The guys would all shake their hands. What a loser. Megan would turn away. What a stupid jerk. Evan slammed the lid of the lockbox shut. He stuffed the envelope in his short pockets. He was not going to let that happen. He wasn't planning to keep the money, not for good, but it wasn't going to let her have it tonight. When it came to how show the earning, he'd have $62.11, and he'd had nothing. She had nothing. He'd given her money back tomorrow, or maybe the day after that, but not tonight. He suddenly felt desperate, needed to get out of the house as fast as he could. He shoved the lockbox back into Jessie's closet and the key back into the fake pack of gum. "Hey, Mom," he shouted, not even waiting for her to answer back. "I'm going to the school to see if there's a game, okay?" Chapter 2. Waiting Parade. Noun. A satisfied delay required by law between taking and an action to see the result of that action. Jessie wanted to have fun, she really did, but it seems like more she tired the last heat she had. First, the drive to the beach took 2.5 hours because of traffic. Jessie felt the car lurching. Forward stop. "Memo of myself," said Mr. Moriarty. "Never go to the beach on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, especially when there's been the heat wave for more than a week." In the back seat, Jessie and Megan played lines, played tags, and Magnets bingo and 20 questions, but by the end of the car ride, Jessie was cramped and bored. Then the beach parking lot was full, so they had to park half a mile away and walk. Then the beach was so crowded that they could hardly find a spot for their blankets. Then Megan said the water was too cold and she just wanted to go in up to her ankle. She kept squealing and running backward every time the gentle rip of wave came her way. What's fun of that? Sure, the water was cold. It was no store. It was supposed to be cold. That's why it felt so good on a hot day like this. When Jessie and Evan went to the beach, they would boogie board and body surfed and slamboard and throw swimming surge balls back and forth the whole time. They loved to stay in the water until their lips turned blue and they couldn't stop shaking. Then they rolled themselves like Winnie on their towels until they were hot and sweating again, and then they'd go right back in. Now that was fun at the beach. Megan liked to build sandcastle and collect shells and play sand tennis and read magazines. That's all fine, thought Jessie, but not going in the water? That's crazy. The ride home The ride home was itchy and hot. Jessie had sand in all the places where her skin rubbed together, between her toes, behind her ears, and between the cheeks of her bottom, and somehow she got sunburned on her back, even though Mrs. Moriarty had smeared her all over with thick, gloopy sunscreen twice. Jessie didn't even have to pad Trace for 10 questions, let alone 20. But Megan didn't get that Jessie didn't feel like talking. She kept trying to get her to take a quiz in a teen magazine. If Evan had been there, he would have kept quiet, or maybe hum a little. Jessie liked it when Evan hummed. As they turned onto Damon Road, Megan asked, "Are you feeling sick?" In fact, she was. For the past half hour, Jessie had been imagining walking in the door and facing Evan, and she'd been feeling sicker and sicker with every mile that brought her closer to home. Chapter 13. Chris's Magnet. Chris's Magnet. Noun. Special or extraordinary method and procedures used when the business is in danger of failing. Sucker. Oh man, you were scolded. Poor school baby. For the third time that afternoon, Scott Spencer had gotten the drop on Evan, dribbling around him and then hitting the easy layup. So the guys were giving him the business, even the ones on his own team. It was Evan, Paul, and Ryan against Kevin, Toomey, Malcolm, and Scott. Evan wished that Scott hadn't shown up, but he had said, and they needed the sixth guy for 3-on-3 since Jack had gone home to ask his mom if they could all swim at his house. So what was Evan supposed to say? Anyway, Evan was 3 times the ball handler that Scott was, and everyone knew it. So it was all in fun. But it didn't feel like much fun to Evan. "What's up, man?" Paul asked. Evan dribbled the ball back and forth, left hands, right hands, and then threw his leg. "Hey, it's hot," he said. "Yeah, it's hot for all of us," said Paul. "Get your game on, dude." But Evan couldn't get his move right. He was half-step beside himself, and every time he moved, the envelope slapped against his thigh like a reprimand. "Speaking of hot," said Ryan. Everyone turned to look. Jack was coming up the path, running at the dead dog path. "Oh, please, God," said Paul. "Let her say yes." As soon as he was in the range, Jack shouted, "She said yes!" "What's up?" asked Scott. "Jack asked his mom if we could all go swimming in his pool," Kevin said. "Hey, Jack," shouted Scott. "Can I come too?" "Yeah, sure," said Jack. He stopped running toward them and was waiting for them to join him on the path. "Oh, great," thought Evan, but he wasn't about to turn down the duck in the pool just because Scott Spencer would be there. Nobody wanted to go home from suits and towels. Kevin's, Malik, and Ryan's were wearing a basketball shirt anyway, so they could swim in these. "We've got enough suit at home, at the house," said Jack. "My mom saved all our old ones." At the house, Evan changed into the one of Jack's suit. He wrapped up his underwear and shirt inside his shirt and put the bundle of clothes on the end of Jack's bed next to all the other guys. Pile up clothes. It felt good to drop the heavy shirt with the envelope stuck in the pocket. Then, just to be sure, he put his shoes on top of his pile of clothes. He didn't want anything happening to that money. They played pool basketball all afternoon, even though the teams were uneven. Mrs. Bagder Seren brought our drink and cookies and chips and slice of watermelon. Every time one of them went into the house to use the bathroom, she shouted, "Dry off before you come in." But she did it in the nice way. Then, just when Evan thought the afternoon couldn't get any better, it did. Scott had gone into the house to go to the bathroom. A few minutes later, he came out dressed, his hair still dripping down his back. "I gotta go," he said, jamming his foot into his sneakers. "Did your mom call?" asked Ryan. "Nope, I just gotta go," he said. "See ya." He ran out the gate. "Great," shouted Evan. "Now the teams are even." And they went back to playing pool hoops. Evan didn't think about Scott Spencer for the rest of the afternoon. He didn't think about Scott Spencer until he went into Jack's bedroom to change back into his clothes and noticed that his shoes were on the floor and his shirt weren't folded up. Chapter 14. Reconciliation. Reconciliation. Noun. The act of bringing together after the difference, as in to reconcile number on the balance sheet. Resolution. "Come on, you two," Mrs. Tresky called up the stairs. If we don't go now, there won't be any room on the grass." "We're coming," shouted Evan, sticking his head out of his room. Jesse was sitting on his bed, and he was trying to get her to go to the fireworks. She had her lockbox on her laps and a malicious look on her face. "Just say it's a tie," said Evan. "Come on, Jess. This whole thing is stupid, and you know it." "It's not till unless it's a tie," said Jessie, knowing she sounded like a bird, but not able to stop herself. "How much have you got?" "Mom's waiting," said Evan. "Put your dumb box away and let's go to the fireworks." "How much have you got?" Evan tightened up his finger as if he was strangling an invisible ghost. "Nothing, okay? I've got nothing. Look." He turned the pocket of his shirt inside out. Jessie looked spectacled. "You can't have anything. You must have made something." "Well, I've expenses, so I end up with nothing, okay? Are you happy? You win." Evan sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the floor. Jessie felt her heart sink. "You spent all your money on mix for your lemonade on Wilson's?" Jessie asked. "All of it?" Evan nodded. Jessie felt like crawling under the bed and never coming out. "It didn't pay off so good," she whispered. There were a few bucks in the system," said Evan. "That's a joke." Jessie would have laughed, he thought, before the war. Now it was all just money and number and bad feeling. There was no room for laughing. "Oh," said Jessie, her voice a size of an ant. Jessie stared down at the box in her lap. "I've got..." She opened the lid of the lockbox, took out the change tray, and pushed aside all the scrap of paper she had collected and the comment card from Megan. She stared. "Wait a minute. This isn't my money." She picked up the handful of wrinkled bunches of veil. Evan lay down on the bed and covered his head with his pillow. Jessie counted the money quickly. $62.11. Where did this come from? And Faith, his sister, "I'm really sorry. In the real world you fight. You fight with your hands and with weapons. You fight with anything you've got because it's a matter of life and death. Just death." Jessie felt a loss of her hard-earned money like a death, and she ripped into Evan with all her power in her body. She punched him, she kicked him, she threw her lockbox at him. She wanted to tear him up into little pieces. Evan didn't try to pin her, though, though it would have been easy to do. Part of him just wanted to lie on the bed and take it all, for being the one who started the whole thing by saying, "I hate you," for making Jessie feel so rotten about herself, just because rotten about himself, for taking Jessie's money and losing it to Scott, just for being so stupid. But Jessie was really going to get it. And if he didn't protect himself at least a little, he was going to end up in the emergency room, and that would upset his mom. So he kept his hands up in front of his face, just enough to keep Jessie from gouging out his eyes. But he never once tried to hit her back. He was done fighting. Finally, Jessie ran out of gas. She lay down on the bed and tried to make her brain work. Her body was so worn out that her brain felt like the only part of her that could work. "One of your friends stole my money?" she asked. "I think it was Scott Spencer," said Evan. "He went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and then he came down in a hurry and said he had to go home. After that, I went upstairs and the money was gone." "He's such a jerk," said Jessie. "The biggest," said Evan. "If he got an Xbox, I'll know it was him." "It was a lot of money," said Jessie, feeling tears started to spring from her eyes and run down her face. "It was," said Evan. "I couldn't believe how much when I saw it. You're really something. You know that? Earning all that money selling lemonade." "Thanks," thought Jessie, though she couldn't say a word. "Why do you do it, Evan?" she asked. She meant, "Why do you take the money? And why you act so mean? And why you start this whole war in the first place?" There was too many questions. "I was mad at you for putting the bugs in my lemonade," he said. "Well, I was mad at you for saying you wanted to privilege me," she said. "I only did that because you were hanging out with Megan and I felt totally left out." "Well, how do you think I felt when you wouldn't let me hang out with you and stupid Scott Spencer?" "Well, I was mad at you because Jessie sat up and looked at Evan. Evan looked at the wall. "Because I don't want you in my class this year," he said. "Because I'll embarrass you," she said solemnly. "Because I'll embarrass myself," said Evan. "I never had a right answer in math, and I read slower than everyone when I read out loud, and I make mistakes all the time. And now, with you in the class, it's going to be worse. They all say, 'Wow, he's even dumber than his little sister.'" Evan's shoulders slumped and his head hung low. "You're not dumb," said Jessie. "I know you don't think I am," he said, "and that stinks too. That you're going to see how dumb I am in school." "You're not dumb," said Jessie again. "You made $103.11 selling lemonade in just 5 days." "Yeah, but you made $208. You see, you're my little sister, and you're twice as smart as me." Jessie shook her head. "Half that money is Megan's. She just gave it to me to give to the Animal Rescue League. I only made $104. Evan laughed. "Really?" Jessie nodded yes. "So you made $104 and I made $103.11, said Jessie. "So it was really a tie?" said Evan. "No," said Jessie. "I won by 89 cents. "But, I mean, come on," said Evan. "After all that, It was practically a tie. No, said Jessie. It was close, but I really won. Wow, we're pretty much tied, said Evan. Jessie decided to let it go. For the first time in 4 days, she didn't care about who had more and who had less. Besides, she was waiting to see how long it took before Evan figured it out. Not long. Holy crowd, he said suddenly. I lost Megan's money too? $104 of her money? Oh, crud. He threw himself back on his bed and covered his face with both arms. Neither of them said anything for a long time. Finally, Jessie broke the silence. I'm really sorry I put the bugs in your lemonade. Thanks, said Evan. Thanks, said Evan. I'm sorry I took your and Megan's money. We shouldn't have done any of this, Jessie said, waving her hands at the money on her bed. It's ruined the end of the summer. Yeah, the whole summer's been crud, said Evan. Not a whole summer, just the last 5 days. Remember, we went to the Bear Harbor and we swam at the pond? Jessie couldn't stand Evan thinking their whole summer together had been crud. Yeah, but I think the last 5 days kind of cancel all that out, said Evan. I can't believe I had to tell Megan Moriarty she likes you, said Jessie. Evan sat up, surprised. Really? Yeah, said Jessie. I don't get it either, but she's always asking what you're doing and if you can play and stuff. Why do you think she does that? Cool, said Evan, smiling. So you guys are friends? Yeah, said Jessie. We're good friends. Okay then. So she'll be coming over here to play and stuff, right? That's cool. You're weird, said Jessie. Yes, I am, said Evan. There was another long pause. The late summer light in Evan's one-window room had faded to black, but neither one of them wanted to turn on the light. It was nice sitting there, just the two of them, in the cooling darkness. An afternoon breeze had kicked itself into the gusty wind, and the shade of the window tapped out the steady beat that was pleasant and reassuring. This world was stupid, said Jessie. Evan nodded in the dark. Just then they heard the sounds of thunder booming in the distance, then more and more until the whole house shook. The fireworks! Shouted Jessie. Oh snap! Shouted Evan. Jessie and Evan raced down the stairs. At the bottom, they found their mother sitting on the last step, watching the sky through the sliding screen door. Why didn't you call us? Said Evan. We're missing the fireworks, said Jessie. Oh, I figured whatever the two of you were talking about was more important than a fireworks show. Mrs. Tresky turned to look at her kids. Did you work it out? Evan and Jessie nodded just as a Roman candle exploded in the sky. Not a bad seat, said Mrs. Tresky, patting the steps. Enjoy. For 20 minutes, the night sky was alive with my wagon wheels, party-colored delays, and whistling glitter plums. Evan, Jessie, and Mrs. Tresky sat watching, silence but for an occasional ooh and ah that seems to escape from her lips like hissing air from an overblown tire. When the last of the fireworks bloomed and then faded, Evan, Jessie, and Mrs. Tresky sat in the darkness waiting. No one said anything for several minutes, and then Jessie whispered, "It's over." Yes, it was over. Wait, said Evan. What was that? What? Asked Jessie, straining her ears. Listen, in the distance, a booming and rattle. More fireworks, said Evan, staring up at the dark sky. Where? I don't see them, said Jessie. All of a sudden, a sky split it in two as lightning sliced in night. As an explosion of thunder rolled through the house, rattling and window and pictures on the walls. Rain poured from the sky as if the gigantic frost tent had been twisted on. "Yo!" shouted Mrs. Tresky, leaping off from the step. "Battle stations!" Every window in the house was wide open, so Evan, Jessie, and Mrs. Tresky ran from the top floor to the bottom, shutting windows and sloping up bottles. The rain came down with the fury and impatience of the 2-year-old having a tantrum. As he closed the window in his room, Evan could hear the gurgle of the glitter choking on the downpour. "One thing's end, another begins," said Mrs. Tresky, meeting Jessie and Evan on the stairs. She raised her index fingers like a wise philosopher. "Fireworks, rainstorms." Jessie raised her index finger. "Summer, school." Evan raised his index finger. "War, peace." Then they laughed because it was silly. The three of them, acting like wise philosophers standing on the stairs. That night before she closed her door, Jessie whisper shouted to Evan, who was already in bed, "Hey, I've got an idea about getting Megan's money back."